Thank you, Ray. Great report. I'm now happy to bring Jim Alexander back up to the podium to introduce our speaker, Senator Becky Duncan Massey.
Thanks, Chris. It's my honor to present Becky. Becky and I have literally known each other since grammar school. And it's funny, I was thinking back, her dad used to knock on our doors when he ran for his offices throughout the years. And now we were talking about it up here, how she's knocking on doors. So she's continued to do that, which is a great thing to do for, to get to know your constituency. Becky is a Knoxville native, as most of you probably know. She was married to Gordon Massey, 1976. We talked about, so they've been married quite some time. More than happy to be a fraternity brother of mine, so we've stayed in close contact over the years. And most of y'all know Becky's service for this area has been fantastic over the years, and I'm pleased to call her my friend. She did also, in her other life, she did run the Sertoma Center for about 24 years. She retired from that. Like I said, Becky is married to Morton Massey. She also has two daughters, Courtney and Courtney and Kristen, excuse me, I get it right. And then she also has a granddaughter named Becky. So without further ado, welcome Becky Massey.
And I call him Jimmy. Of course, my brother's Jimmy also, so it made it easy. But we lived a few doors from each other, and a couple people said, well, do you know any good dirt on Jimmy? And I said, well, I probably do if I could only remember. But I do have friends that do. So it was neat because Jimmy's best friend now, and for life, basically, and my best friend were our brother and sisters. So we did literally grow up hanging out with each other all the time. Spring break, Florida, all this. So we did go back a long way. But thank you all for inviting me here today. It's been a good while since I've spoken to this club. You were still at the Hive when I spoke the last time. And but I do have lots of friends in here, whether it's several people that were involved with Sertoma Center and people I've known a long time and involved in through our auctions and different things that we used to, for a number of years, Morton and I helped do the computerized checkout of about 60 nonprofit auctions a year. So just a little bit of community work, but I applaud each of you all for the work that you're doing, not only in our community, but as Rotarians, what you're all doing worldwide. And you all are making a difference in people's lives. And that is just really something extremely important to me. But I will start out with a cute story. I know several attorneys here in the room, and I come from a number of attorneys, my dad and my brother and uncle and my brother-in-law, a lot of attorneys around, and of course, politicians. So there's this pastor that was on his deathbed, and he decided to call in two of the members of his congregation to be with him there at the end. He called in a politician and a lawyer, one on one side, one on the other. And they're sitting there and they're going, Pastor, they said, why did you pick us? We feel really just honored. And he goes, well, I thought about it. And he said, Jesus died between two sinners, and I thought it was good enough for him. So anyway, but no, just something. It really is just an honor to serve. I thought I was going to be at Sertoma Center forever, and serving folks with intellectual disabilities, and it really just was my passion. I'd grown up around politics. I was 4 when Daddy was elected mayor, so I'd worked in campaigns over the decades, but doing my own thing in the community and then working in Sertoma. But it was through Sertoma that I was going to Nashville advocating for the voiceless, people that had nobody to really speak for them. And it kind of grew on me. So 13 years ago, I had 2 weeks when Jamie Woodson stepped down, 2 weeks to decide to run. And, at that point, I'm still running. I'm at Sertoma. I had 200 staff. We served 120 folks with disabilities. So it wasn't like I didn't have any other responsibilities that summer. But we got into the race, and not knowing necessarily what the outcome was, but I knew that good things were happening in Nashville. Overall, good things are happening in our state. And I was successful being elected. And like I say, if I hadn't been at Sertoma, I would not be in this position right now. I'm 100% sure of that. But it really just has been an honor to serve Knox County and in our state. And I've learned to, work hard and to work with other people. It's not always about getting 100%, but if you can get 70% done of what you want to get done and you treat everybody respectfully, you can get a lot done. I had the best year ever this year. Now, each House member, there's 99 House members, 33 senators. Each House member can carry 15 bills. And most of the bills are very small, they're very industry specific, but that means each senator has to carry about 45 bills, which is a lot, and you have to really stay organized. But I passed 31 bills this year, and 30 of them unanimously. That's just working with people and making sure you're getting things done. And when you can pass legislation that absolutely saves lives, like our Silver Alert program that we've got now, they're up to about 319 people, seniors that have been returned safely to their families. That was my legislation a couple of years ago. But I do serve on both the Health Committee and I chair the Transportation and Safety Committee. And health type things, long-term care, that's always been kind of my passion. Worked with Jim over at Medic and good friends actually knocked on his door while he was out in Montana. Michelle. But our mental health is important too, and we've been really seeing the need grow in our community. A couple of years ago, I co-chaired a national task force that looked at mental health and substance abuse and the employment aspect of it. And, that was so important, but I am working and I've got it kind of teed up to get us a new mental health hospital built back here. It was 3 days after I was elected, they called me up and said they were closing Lakeshore. But I have made sure that the money that was spent there has stayed in our region for mental health care, but it has just been growing. And so I worked with the Commissioner of Mental Health and got her to do a new study on the need. We're 50 beds short now. We'll be 100 beds short by 2050. I've already got the governor discussing it. They were talking about expanding the hospital down in Chattanooga. Now they're saying maybe they don't need to expand that since they need to build one here. So I will work kind of coordinating all the regional legislators to get the governor to help fund that so we can get that taken care of. But they asked me to talk a little bit about transportation. I tell people, I said, my passion is for vulnerable people, whether it's people with disabilities, kids that have been being abused, or our seniors. But transportation is my assigned passion because I am not an engineer. I do know how to run a good committee, and I do know how to get legislation passed. So a couple of years ago, when the governor was going to do his Transportation Modernization Act, I was the one that carried it. But not only that, I decided that I'd seen the governor's office, not quite all, everybody coordinate their actions together on some of their major pieces of legislation. So I pretty much self-appointed myself and ran strategy on that bill. And it was really quite fun, but the House Chair of Transportation and I meet weekly together, so that part was easy. But we just made sure that the governor's office, the Department of Transportation's folks, and the two majority leaders and our offices all worked in sync and off of one song book. And actually that bill, well, some folks nationally said it was going to take us 5 years to pass. We passed in 7 weeks from the time we got the bill line, which was 79% of the vote in each house. Now, I only got one more senator, I beat the house, but that was funded $3.3 billion from general fund money to help fund our infrastructure. And I don't know if y'all know, but we're one of 5 states that does not borrow for our roads. And we spend what we get in on our gas tax revenue. Thankfully, about 30% of that comes from out-of-state people driving through our state. So they're using our roads, they're helping us fix our roads. But it's not enough to do everything we need to do. It's not anywhere close. If we don't do anything different, if we didn't do anything different, kids that were in high school would be senior citizens by the time we just got to all the road projects that we got on the list, which doesn't include a bypass around Knoxville. It doesn't include any expansion things. So we put this $3.3 billion in. $300 million was going to each of the 95 counties through there's a formula for that. And that was for their county road funds, and that was huge for each of the counties. It's about 15 times what they get in a normal year. And then the $3 billion was kind of divided into the 4 TDOT regions across the state. And basically there are 4 urban areas, and which is really where our worst traffic is. Like Knoxville has 5 of the highest average daily traffic counts in the state, 5 of the top 7. And so I keep reminding the commissioner of that. But basically what we had done with the governor and the commissioner, we looked at other states, conservative states, on how they were doing to manage their traffic and their traffic growth. And what a lot of the states, or a number of the states are doing, are a type of express lane. The ones that started out with the toll roads are really not doing any new toll roads. They're doing the toll lanes where you have the free lane and a lane or two that is a paved lane. And so, the studies have shown that manages traffic well. So that is what we enabled in this legislation, is that we could do a choice lane project. I kind of wanted to do a volunteer lane project, and then you take koozies if you drove enough in it. But we decided we'd do it statewide, but they're called choice lanes. So it doesn't say we have to have them, but it was legislation that said we could do them in each of the urban areas. But what would happen is one of these, an investor group that does these in Texas and Virginia and Florida and Georgia and North Carolina and everything, they would come in, they would bring in, let's say, $800 million of a $1 billion road. They would design, fund, build, maintain, and operate it. So that saves us $800 million we're having to spend in Knox County. Now we can spend that $800 million and leverage it to spend in our suburban areas or our rural areas, like relaning our interstates out of Kentucky, which several people talked to me about. But it's basically then, they don't own it, they just are leasing the roads, but they're giving us $800 million. And that helps us jumpstart an expansion. They're doing the first one on 24 in Nashville. Memphis is going to get a new bridge, and we're working on federal funding there to leverage that dollars. And they'll be looking at Knoxville. But I have got the commissioner to, instead of just looking at reworking the Watt Road and the Campbell Station interchange, which are our last interchanges left to be done, they're going to address the whole corridor from 640 out to the split. And it will be, and at the same time, they're going to do a new bypass study, because I think ultimately, long-term, we need both. We need the expansion of 40 and the bypass. But the expansion of 4075 has got to come first. And so I'll be working really closely. In fact, I'm meeting with the commissioner of TDOT right after lunch today, looking at part of that work this afternoon. So that's something we will continue to work on, because it affects everybody, and we will work on that. Just a little bit about overall budget. It was $52.8 billion budget this year. It was decreased 16% from last year's budget. And of course, a lot of that was extra COVID money, federal money that had been coming down. And basically, your health and social services, education, transportation, and corrections take up 80% of the expenses in our budget. And those are the big ones. But we continue to reduce taxes. Virtually every year. I think that obviously we didn't do it in 20, but virtually every year since I've been here, we have reduced taxes, some type of taxes for Tennesseans to give it back to the people that's where it came from, basically. The other thing is, also through transportation on over safety, which is over the highway patrol and Homeland Security. And so we work with them to give them the tools because, we all talk a lot about the porous southern border down there, and people go, well, what can you do about that? And besides, we did send our guard down to support them there for a while, but what we can do is the effects of it coming through our state. The drugs, the fentanyl that is driving through our state, the human trafficking that is coming in through our state, we can give the highway patrol tools to fight it. And then we can also develop the substance abuse resources to help folks where those drugs get here. We have, we work with victims of human trafficking. We've got a company here, a nonprofit here that's located in Knox County out on the street. They're an amazing organization. They're the only provider of residential homes for girls under 18 in the state, and there's only 100 beds in the whole country. Amazing organization. I've been out and visited with them multiple times. But, the only thing that I like to say, I always promise is that I'll always work hard, I'll always be respectful, and I'll always try to listen to folks, because we're not going to always agree. These people think you got to agree all the time. That's not my universe, and I don't think it's hardly anybody else's either. But if we could listen to each other and treat people respectfully, regardless of what they say. I was in an assisted living place this week, and this lady goes, "Don't talk to me. I'm a Democrat." And I go, well, what's wrong with that? We can still talk. Oh no. Okay. I won't push it, but I talk to lots of Democrats. So anyway, but just to remind you, early voting starts Friday. Election day is basically in 3 weeks on August 1st. Please go vote and encourage your friends to go vote. When my dad ran for re-election in 1963, there were 44,000 people voted in the city of Knoxville mayor's election. There was 17,000 this last the mayor's election that voted. And Knoxville has to be bigger. The city has to have more people in it now than then. We gotta vote, and we gotta encourage folks to vote. So please do so. And questions? Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Hey.
Cars affecting your funding?
Pardon me?
Are the electric cars?
Not yet, not yet. It may eventually, but not enough. And we increased the fees for electric vehicles because they actually are a tad heavier than regular vehicles. And we increased it to the average of like if you drove it 13,000 miles, and the amount of revenue we would get from the gas tax. So we've offset that. I've been on another national work group looking at alternative transportation funding, because what's hurting our gas tax funding is the higher mileage vehicles. And that's hitting a whole lot more than electric vehicles. And several states are going to kind of a mileage driven basis, but they give it as a choice. You can either pay an average, or you can charge your miles. And I actually participated in a study on it, and mine was about equal what I would have paid. But yeah, electrics are not hardly, they're a blip on it there now. So any other questions? Yes, sir.
What correlation are you seeing in the homelessness and related to the mental illness?
Well, I asked on the correlation between homelessness and mental illness. we've probably got some folks in here that are probably more of an expert on that than me, but there are quite a bit of resources available for folks that are homeless, especially that have persistent mental illness. And it's helping them, support our agencies here in town that are doing that work. But there is definite, a large portion do experience some form of mental illness. So it's just a question of what type of resources they want and are they willing to accept the help. And that's probably the biggest thing. And any mental health, I don't care if it's homeless folks or people that are experiencing addiction or whatever. The person that is experiencing that really does have to want the help. And for it to be anywhere come close to be successful. I always say they've got to want the help. They have to have the help available or the resources to get that help. And then they have to get the right kind of help for that moment with the right medicines or whatever. And there's a lot of stars and moon and sun that got to be in a perfect alignment. But I mean, it's just our job to make sure the resources are available and that we keep supporting that. The mental health hospital will help it. But basically, more people are being supported in hospital settings right now than we're supported annually at Lakeshore. More people are definitely getting more help in community-based mental health treatments. So we maximize those dollars. The problem's just growing. And part of it is homelessness, but part of it is just a lot of other factors that are mental health needs are growing.
One question, last question online, actually.
Okay.
It says, what is being done to improve our rail systems in Tennessee?
Well, there's been some real studies. Chattanooga actually got a grant to look at developing a line from Atlanta through Chattanooga to Nashville. We're not on the list yet, but it's still, we're in that mix, but I'm not sure I'll see it in my lifetime. But I mean, at the end of the day, the state has to look at the ROI on it. How many people would ride Amtrak? I'd love to have the trains here. I mean, I would absolutely love it. But is it going to be enough worth our investment, or are we better off expanding our roads and making our roads better that more people are going to use? So, I mean, all that would have to be taken into consideration, but Chattanooga is actively pursuing it. So once the first one gets here, it's often easier to get, the second one, because we can see how the ridership goes and see how it's affecting everything. So, I mean, I've been to meetings with the Amtrak people and we'll continue to support the efforts. I met with the Chattanooga folks that have updated it on it. So Jimmy's got a fraternity brother up in Virginia that really wants to see it come down through Bristol, down through Knoxville to Chattanooga. And so I met with him. So anyway, all righty, guys. Thank you. I'll stick around if anybody has any other questions, but thank you all. I appreciate it. Really, y'all are amazing. You do great work, and it is just an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Senator Massey, thank you so much. You hit on a lot of important topics that are important to a lot of people in here. I saw Brian Webb on the virtual. He is the executive director and CEO of the Knoxville Behavioral Center for Medicine. So mental health is very important, and certainly addressing, we all want to talk about traffic too. So great things ahead, and thank you for your service.